Ed, our producer, brought up a very, very good point in the break, which was we'd like your view on what Dillian Whyte's doing just now, leading in to this fight on April the 23rd at Wembley Stadium in front of 100,000 people. Total wall of silence, not coming to the press conference. Now, we know what Tyson Fury's like. Is Whyte being very smart here?
I think so. I think he is. Well, we know what Tyson Fury's like when you do go to the press conference. He always wins that battle every single time, doesn't he? Whether that's Klitschko or whether he's fighting Wilder, he always seems to get on top.
Could you address as Batman ever or not?
I don't think I could pull it off.
He's just the master of mind. He's the master of mind games, isn't he, Fury? You're never going to beat him at that. And you know, as we've talked about already earlier in this show, you know, it's 80% mental, 20% physical. And Fury gets a lot of those fights won before the first bell because he gets inside the opponent's head.
And he doesn't even think about it. It's innate. It's natural.
It
is the way he is. I've spent a lot of time around him, and you don't know what he's going to do on any given day.
He's a master at that.
Yes, so it's interesting to see what sort of approach Dillian Whyte's taken. I don't know if it will have any effect on Tyson Fury because he's mentally strong, he's mentally stout anyway, but one thing it will do, it will mean that he won't get in his head during the press conferences, so it probably is a smart move.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. My reports are this week that Dillian Whyte's moved home in the Algarve, he's moved up to the mountains, he looks absolutely ripped, apparently, and you know, he's probably sucking up all that media tease, and like you say, he's not having to fly over from Portugal. It would not surprise me, gents, if he doesn't appear in the press conference on fight week and just comes to the weigh-in and the fight.
He doesn't need to sell the fight. That's the thing. The fight sells itself anyway. Dillian's smart and he knows that. You know, some fights need selling. So Tyson Fury's boxing someone that's not really well known. Someone, you know, a guy from a different country that's not very well known. He's got to sell the fight. He's got to get out there and he's got to do his bit. This fight, people know this is a serious fight. Dillian's a potential banana skin. Dillian's doing the right thing by playing the silent guy. That actually is bringing more eyeballs to it because people are asking the question. You know, it's getting into people like, where is he? What's he doing? How's he look? 100%. Is he training? You know, all these things.
And one thing Mark Tibbs said to me when he used to train Dillian Whyte, one thing about Dillian Whyte is he's a very, very hard, diligent trainer. So you can bet your bottom dollar that he's out there in the Algarve or in the mountains of Portugal, wherever he is. He's training his absolute best, so we're going to be in for a treat. I hope we are.
I think so.
In 1976, I think I'm sure we've spoken about this
before.
In 1976, Muhammad Ali took a vow of silence against Leon Spinks, who just won the Olympic heavyweight gold, and decided that with only 8 fights, there was nothing he could say about the guy. He lost on points over 15 rounds. He won the rematch, of course. And it's like, that vow of silence created more media coverage because they were waiting for. In the end, Ali took some tape off his mouth at one of the press conferences. It's a phenomenal thing to do. Could you ever imagine doing that? Would you pull that one?
I wouldn't do a vow of silence as such, or trying to black out and do nothing. But for me, it's more about the fact that if someone tries to trash talk me, I'm not really the sort of person to trash talk back. It's just not in my personal style to do that.
Is that a rugby thing as well?
I think so. You learn a lot of respect from rugby. You're not chatting back to the ref.
It's better to take one, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think if you went silent though, mate, the Bull Army would go absolutely nuts.
Yeah.
They want to
hear
from
other
the big
people
man.
speaking.
They
Other people speaking for me. Someone would take over, which would be. I let them do a lot of the talking for me anyway. Like I've got great people around me: Terry Stone, Tom Skinner, Food Review Club, like all these people that are part of the Bull Army now. What we've started to call it, and I've got characters as it is. So for me, it takes a bit of pressure off me having to like talk myself up and stuff like that because I don't want to do that. I just want to do what I've got to do, my job, and I'll learn. I'll get better, and if people want to watch, they can keep watching.
Did you study communication at university? Or
something? No, I studied history, which is slightly different, but But
so you studied history. Gareth looks like a history teacher.
We were match made in heaven.
Absolutely. No, I mean, one of the things that's interesting is one of my old mentors, Colin Hart, 60 years covering the sport, always says that boxers can't be too intelligent.
Yeah.
Do you know what he means by that?
I do know what he means, because you can't, when it comes to boxing, it's like
you can't overthink it. If you think about it, you know it goes wrong, doesn't it? You know when you're trying something new in the gym to explain it, to give you an analogy of it. When you're trying to work something out in the gym, it always goes wrong, doesn't it?
No, you've got to
it
flow.
goes wrong.
You know
when you're thinking about throwing a jab, you get hit with a jab.
But you're best when you're not thinking about it. You know when you get that flow in the gym, you're on the bag or you're hitting that pads and you're just flowing. That's the best stage. You don't always get it, but every now and then, after a few weeks in the gym, you'll get that feeling you're flowing. You think, oh, I'm here now, I'm ready.
Or when you knock someone's spark out, it just happens off a combination. You haven't thought about it, have you? And all of a sudden, boom, he's down. You think, that's Andy.
That's what you've got to do. It's got to be instinctive with boxing. So you said you can't think about things too much because boxing's still an instinctive.
Yeah, of course.
It's a very primitive sport still.
But do you think boxing taught you to apply yourself?
Yeah, it's given me. Well, I've done it since, even though I didn't have a long amateur career. I've always been in the boxing gym since the age of 6 or 7.
Sure.
And it gives you a grounding. Definitely does, because you're sparring kids bigger than you. You're going to these boxing coaches, and amateur boxing gyms are brilliant because it teaches you respect for people older than you and the adults in the gym. Like, I was quite fearful of my first trainer, Alan Bush. Like, he'd always tell me I was quite porky as a kid.
Boxing trainers, they're quite brutal. Boxing trainers,
they are. He was brutal.
They're so old school. It's unreal. Like, you know what I mean? They get away with. A lot of them say stuff that you just can't get away with in the real world.
I'll give you an example. I was quite chubby as a kid, like big, 12, 13 years old. I used to come into the gym and he said, "John, what have you had to eat today?" And I'd say, "Sausage rolls, bacon roll, carrot cake, sponge cake." And he'd say, "Well, you know where you're going wrong. That's why you still got a bit of timber there." And he was right, though. That's the thing. It doesn't matter. He probably wouldn't be able to say it now. I know that's 10, 15 years ago, but he was probably right.
Yeah, I go down to Finchley Boxing Club, and they're still like Sean Murphy and all that. They're all old school
University
trainers.
of Life,
yeah,
that is, isn't
absolutely,
it, by the way?
Yeah, it's my old gym. So when I go in there and you go, it's like the time the place that time forgot.
Yeah.
You go in there and nothing's changed. You know what I mean? It's just there.
But you need a bit of that.
And the verbal stuff that goes on there, you think, wow, mate, that can't go on. Like in the real world, you couldn't get away with saying stuff like that.
Right, in the last 2.5 minutes before you head out into the dark night, out onto the cobbles, where no one will challenge you, my friend. Tell us about visualising the future. Will you be a world champion? Can you become a world champion? Do you believe in yourself that much? Where are your aspirations? How high can you take them?
Well, I think if any boxer goes into the sport, you need to have self-belief and you need to have a dream. And my dream, and it still is only a dream in a minute, we all dream of boxers of becoming a world champion. But my aspirations, like short term, I'd love to have a title, like an area title in a year or so's time.
12 fights, something like that.
Then maybe
traditional route.
Have a look at an English title. If I get to that, and that might be I might get to English level, and that'll be my lot. I don't know, but I might be able to say I could challenge for a British title. And when you get a British title, then the world's your oyster. You can go from there. But if I ever get my hands on the British title, I will be. Mate, that would be my dream.
Mate, I love that. You'll get your hands on the British title. I'm sure of that. I know you're around at a time when it's stacked with heavyweights. But I think looking at you, Johnny, from when I see you when you first turned pro, and I knew Owen Coyne, who was doing a bit of sponsorship with you and everything else, and they said mentioned you, I come down and see training stuff. Your development from then till now is incredible. If it keeps moving at that pace, in a couple of years' time, forget areas, forget English, forget British, Commonwealth, European, the world's your oyster.
I hope so.
It's all about hard work and dedication, mate.
Exactly.
You've got plenty of that, bundles of it.
And I think that's what I mean.
And luck,
that's
and
it.
all of, and being
you need
blessed,
all of that.
all of it.
But you need that, and I think the dedication and my realism of knowing I've got to get through these little steps first is what's going to allow me to get to that bigger picture.
Absolutely.
Because if you forget the little steps, you won't get to the big picture in the end.
You're in the blue ribbon division.
Yes.
And Tyson Fury went AWOL after he beat Vladimir Klitschko. I was there when he won on the night. But look at how he's resurfaced again. He thought that was his Everest. You're talking the British title. You get the British title, you go, hang on a minute.
You want a bit more.
You want a bit more.
That's human nature, isn't it?
Yeah, you do, mate. You do.
Yeah.
I remember I won the Southern area. After the Southern area, I got catapulted into European, won that, and you get the flavour, man.
Yeah,
and
mate,
it develops you into a fighter.
Yeah.
It really does.